Welcome to NibblePop Stories. Today we will learn the story of Things Fall Apart, a novel by Chinua Achebe. Let me take you to Nigeria, 1890. Okonkwo is a very popular man among the Igbo tribe. He is well known in Umuofia, which is a cluster of 9 Igbo villages. About 20 years ago, Okonkwo became famous when he defeated Amilinzi the cat. Of course, Amilinzi was not a real cat. He was called so because he never landed on his back. The nickname denotes his formidable record in wrestling, going 7 years unbeaten among the Igbo. Okonkwo defeated him and brought honor to his village. Okonkwo's fame has grown over the years. He has multiple wives and many children. He is a stern and scary man with a hot temper. When angry, he stammers, which makes him even more furious, leading him to resort to physical violence. He hates unsuccessful men like his late father, Unoka, who died a decade ago. Unoka, his father, had been a talented flute player in his youth, but eventually became lazy. He constantly borrowed money, leaving his family in want. The community saw him as a failure, and Okonkwo felt deep shame because of him. Unoka died in debt. Okonkwo remembers a day from years ago when a neighbor named Okoyi visited his father, Unoka. Okoyi had asked for the 200 koris that Unoka had borrowed 2 years before. Unoka laughed and said he had many other debts to pay first. Okoyi left without his money. Okonkwo is now highly respected in Umuofia despite his father's shameful reputation. He has 2 barns of yams, fought in 2 wars, and has 3 wives and 2 titles. Titles? In Igbo society, titles are marks of status that people earn by paying for them. They help members compare themselves with each other. As a man gains wealth, he can get more titles to increase his recognition and prestige. One night, Okonkwo hears the town crier's drum, calling all men in Umuofia to meet at the marketplace the next morning. Okonkwo thinks there might be war with a neighboring clan, but he isn't a coward like his father. In the last war, Okonkwo brought home his 5th human head. The next morning, 10,000 Umuofia men gather in the marketplace. Ogbuefi Ezeogo announces that men from Baino have killed a girl from Umuofia. The angry crowd decides to give Baino a choice: go to war or give Umuofia a young man and a virgin as compensation. Neighboring villages fear Umuofia and avoid war with it. Umuofia, on the other hand, never goes to war without first trying a peaceful settlement. Besides, a war must be approved by the oracle of the hills and the caves. Now, who is an oracle? Oracle is a medium by which the gods are consulted. The clan sends Okonkwo to negotiate with Baino. He returns in 2 days with a young man and a virgin. The girl goes to the man whose wife was killed. The boy, named Ekemufuna, lives with Okonkwo for the next 3 years. Okonkwo is not cruel at heart, but he fears failure and hates the memory of his idol father. He hates anything that his father loved. He vividly remembers a time when a friend insulted his father by calling him Agbala, which means woman-like or without titles. Okonkwo is tough on his eldest son, Noi, because he fears Noi will turn out like his father. Anyways, Ikemefuna is given to Noi's mother's care. The boy is homesick and does not understand why he has been taken away from his family. When Okonkwo was young, his father Onoka went to Akbala, the oracle of the hills and caves. He asked why he always had a miserable harvest, despite his prayers and offerings to the gods. The oracle told him that the fault lay not in the gods, but in his laziness. Bad luck followed Onoka even in death. He died of a swelling in his stomach and limbs. Now, swelling is not a good disease according to local beliefs. So, he couldn't properly be buried, as he was left in the evil forest to rot. The evil forest was a scary place outside the village where outcasts and impure people were left to die. Okonkwo is afraid of ending up like his father. Now, Okonkwo didn't inherit anything from his father, so he had to start as a sharecropper for a rich man named Nwakebe. In the sharecropping deal, Okonkwo had to give back 2/3 of his harvest to Nwakebe and keep only 1/3 for himself. The first year Okonkwo planted was the worst ever, with a severe drought followed by endless rain and floods. One farmer even killed himself because of the terrible harvest. However, Okonkwo survived due to his strong determination. Despite starting in poverty, Okonkwo became a respected elder. However, he treats less successful men harshly. Once, he insulted a man at a meeting by calling him a woman. A village elder scolded Okonkwo and made him apologize, emphasizing that the fortunate should be humble. Ikemefuna, the child from the other village, feels very homesick at first, but he eventually becomes a part of Okonkwo's family. He forms a close bond with Noi, Okonkwo's son, who is 2 years younger than him. Even Okonkwo starts to like him. Ikemefuna is smart and skilled at making flutes and traps. He even starts calling Okonkwo father. In preparation for planting, the Umuofia people observe the Week of Peace, during which no harsh words are spoken. However, during this time, Okonkwo's youngest wife, Ochiogo, goes to a friend's house to braid her hair, and she forgets to prepare Okonkwo's afternoon meal and feed her children. Okonkwo severely beats her, disregarding the prohibition on violence. Okonkwo's offense threatens the harvest of the whole clan. The priest of the earth goddess orders Okonkwo to make offerings at his shrine. After the sacred week, the farmers of the village begin to plant their harvest. Okonkwo allows Ikemefuna and Noi to help him. However, he always finds fault in their efforts and shouts at them. Ikemefuna and Moi have become very close. Noi finds a brother in Ikemefuna. Ikemefuna has an endless supply of folk tales, and hearing them makes Noi see the world in a new light. The feast of the new yam approaches. It marks the beginning of harvest season. Umuofia celebrates the earth goddess Annie. old yams are thrown out and new yams are enjoyed at the feast. Relatives and guests are invited. The whole clan looks forward to the festival. But Okonkwo prefers walking on his farm. His wives and children, especially Ekemefuna, are excited about the preparations and the celebration. 3 days before the festival, Okonkwo gets angry when he sees some banana leaves have been cut. In many tropical countries, banana leaves are used to wrap food. When his second wife, Ekwefi, admits she did it, he beats her badly. Then he goes hunting with an old gun. When Ekwefi makes a sarcastic comment about guns that never shoot, he tries to shoot her. The New Yam Festival is celebrated with joy. The second day of the new year is the day for wrestling. Ekwefi loves the wrestling matches. She was once the village beauty, and Okonkwo won her heart by defeating the cat. Do you remember the cat? She initially married someone else because Okonkwo couldn't afford her bride price, but later ran away to be with him. They have a daughter, Ezinma, who is charming and one of Okonkwo's favorites. Ezinma helps with chores and brings her father his evening meal. A huge crowd gathers for the wrestling matches, which start with the younger boys. Okonkwo's friend, Obedka's son, Maduka, gains some fame by winning. Ekwefi stands next to Chelo. Chelo is a widow with 2 children. She is also the priestess of Akbala. She becomes a different person when the spirit of the goddess enters her. She is very fond of Ezinma and asks Ekwefi about her health. Ekwefi has lost many children, but Chelo believes Ezinma will survive since she is now 10 and children usually don't die after the age of 6. In the main event, the 2 greatest wrestlers of Umuofia, Ikezu and Okafu, challenge each other. Last year, they ended in a draw. This time, the crowd is thrilled when Okafu takes advantage of Ikezu's move and suddenly defeats him. The spectators proudly carry the victorious Okafu on their shoulders. 3 years go by. Ekemefuna becomes part of Okonkwo's family. He and Moi are as close as brothers. In the evenings, they listen to Okonkwo's stories of violence and bloodshed. Noi still likes his mother's gentle stories more, but pretends to dislike them to make Okonkwo happy. Noi is becoming more confident and hardworking, which pleases Okonkwo. He knows this change is because of Ekemefuna. The locusts arrive in Umuofia after the harvest. They aren't a threat anymore. They come once a generation and are celebrated as new food source. People find them delicious and everyone goes out to catch them. As Okonkwo and the boys enjoy their feast of locusts, Okwefi Izudo, the oldest man in the village, arrives to speak privately with Okonkwo. He says the oracle has commanded that Ekemefuna must be killed to avenge the woman killed in Baino 3 years ago. Izudo warns Okonkwo not to take part because Ekemefuna calls him father. The next day, Okonkwo tells Ekemefuna he is being sent home. Ekemefuna doesn't believe him. Noi cries when he hears his friend is leaving. The next day, a group of men sets out to kill Ekemefuna. Okonkwo joins them, ignoring Izudo's advice. Ekemefuna feels reassured by Okonkwo's presence and looks forward to seeing his family. Suddenly, the men attack him. He runs to Okonkwo for help. Instead, Okonkwo strikes the final blow. He does not want to appear weak. When Noif hears that Ekemefuna is dead, something inside him changes. He recalls hearing a baby crying in the forest last year while harvesting. He learned that Igbo people see twins as bad and leave them to die in the forest. This helps him understand why there are no twins in his village. After Ekemefuna's death, Okonkwo doesn't eat or sleep for 2 days. He constantly thinks about Ekemefuna, who was like a son to him. He drinks and calls Noi to work with him, but Noi is afraid. On the 3rd day, when his daughter Ezinma brings him food, he wishes she were a boy. He feels ashamed that Ekemefuna's death has affected him. Okonkwo visits his friend Oberika. He praises Oberika's son Maduka for winning the wrestling match and complains about his own son's lack of skill, comparing him to his weak father Unoka. He also criticizes Oberika for not helping to kill Ekemefuna. Oberika disagrees with Okonkwo's actions, calling it something that could anger the gods and destroy families. Okonkwo goes home and later returns to join a discussion about the bride price for Oberika's daughter's suitor. They use a ritual to decide the price. They pass sticks, which represent numbers, back and forth. After agreeing on a price of 20 bags of koris, Oberika brings up a story about white men without toes. Someone says that he has seen one white man named Amadi. They compare the white man's skin to that of lepers. Okonkwo sleeps well for the first time in 3 nights, but is woken in the morning by Ikwefi, his wife, banging on the door. Ezinma is dying. Ezinma is Ekwefi's only surviving child, as her other 9 children have died in infancy. Ezinma is also Okonkwo's favorite, remember? Ezinma has been sick many times in her life. Some people think she is an evil spirit called an Ogbanje. Among Igbo, Ogbanje means children who come and go. They believe an Ogbanje dies young and keeps coming back because of an evil spirit. It wants to make the mother suffer. A year ago, a medicine man dug up Ezinma's Iwa. Now, what is that? It's something that keeps the spirit of a dead child tied to this world, making it come back. They thought digging it up would stop Ezinma from getting sick again, breaking her link to the Ogbanje world. Now Ezinma is sick with a fever. Okonkwo collects leaves, grasses, and bark to make medicine for her. Ezinma breathes in the steam from a hot pot and soon falls asleep. At the village playground, a big crowd gathers for a trial. 9 men dress up as the village founders and act like gods of justice. They are called Egwugwu. The 2 sides wait for the trial to start. Okonkwo's wife noticed that one Egwugwu walks like Okonkwo and that Okonkwo himself isn't sitting with the elders. The first case is about a woman who left her husband along with her 2 kids. The husband wants her back, else her bride price should be returned to him. The woman's family claims that her husband was abusive. She'll come back only if he promises not to hurt her again. Evil Forest, the leader of the Igbo, says the husband must give gifts to his in-laws and beg for his wife's forgiveness. As Okonkwo relaxes in his hut after dinner, he listens to his wives and children telling stories. Ekwefi tells Ezinma why the tortoise's shell is rough. A clever tortoise tricked birds into taking him to a feast in the sky. The birds got angry and made him fall, breaking his shell. Just as Ezenma starts to tell a story, they hear the high-pitched wail of Chelo, the priestess of Akbala. Chelo takes Ezenma to Akbala's house in a sacred cave, forbidding anyone to follow. Ekwifi, Ezenma's mother, follows secretly anyway. Sensing someone, Chelo curses the follower. Afraid, Ekwifi keeps following, but from a greater distance. Chelo and Ezenma entered the cave, and Ekwifi waits outside, unsure if she can help her daughter. Suddenly, she hears a noise and sees Okonkwo with a machete. He has come to take her place outside the cave, but she refuses to leave. She stays with him, feels grateful for his concern. His strong, silent presence reminds her of when she left her first husband to marry Okonkwo. When Chelo finally comes out of the cave with Ezenma, it was early morning. She ignores Okonkwo and Ekwifi. She carries Ezenma home to bed with her parents following behind. The next day is the Yuri for Oberika's daughter. Yuri is a pre-wedding celebration. It occurs after the agreement on the bride price. It involves communal feasting, singing and dancing, and it brings the families together. The suitor presents palm wine to everyone. The bride's mother prepares food for the whole village. Women and children gather to help with the cooking. Ekwifi is exhausted from the previous night. Okonkwo also feels very tired and sleepy. Oberika gives cola nuts to his in-laws, and their families officially announce their alliance. They feast, and as night falls, the girls dance. The new in-laws exchange gifts, and Okonkwo gives them 2 roosters. The village crier announces Ezudu's death. Ezudu was the one who told Okonkwo that Ikemefuna must die, and he advised him not to take part in it. The whole clan attends Ezudu's funeral because he was a great warrior with 3 titles. Even the Igbo come to honor him. Men dance and fire guns. During the ceremony, Okonkwo's gun accidentally explodes and a piece of iron kills one of Ezudu's sons. The act is an abomination to the Igbo. Okonkwo is exiled for 7 years. He and his family pack their belongings, and friends store their yams in Oberika's barn. Oberika was Okonkwo's friend. Before dawn, they flee to Okonkwo's motherland, Mbanta. At daybreak, men destroy Okonkwo's home, kill his animals, and burn the buildings. They do this to appease the earth goddess, not out of anger. Oberika joins in the act, but he wonders why a man must be so severely punished for an accidental crime. He remembers having to leave his twin children to die in the forest because of the law. Okonkwo arrives in Banta for his 7-year exile. His maternal uncle Uchendu warmly welcomes him. Uchendu is kind and generous. Okonkwo's mother's kinsmen give him some land and seed yams. Starting over is hard for Okonkwo. He is no longer young. He works hard but finds no pleasure in it. He always dreamed of being a lord in Umuofia, but this setback has crushed his dream. He blames his chi, his personal god, for his failure. Uchendu's youngest son is taking a new wife. The family holds a ceremony for her arrival. Uchendu sees Okonkwo is in despair. He reminds Okonkwo that a child seeks comfort from its mother when beaten by its father. Likewise, Okonkwo has found refuge in his motherland after being exiled. Uchendu says many have suffered more. He urges Okonkwo to be brave to protect his family. In Okonkwo's second year of exile, his friend Oberika visits him with 2 bags of cowries. He brings the sad news that the Abami clan has been wiped out. One day, a white man had come to the village on bicycle. The villagers called it an iron horse. Some ran away, while others touched his white skin. The elders were scared and consulted their oracle. The oracle predicted the white man would destroy their clan and more white men would come like locusts. The white man was not saying anything other than a word, Mbino. Perhaps it was the name of the village he was looking for. However, the village folks killed him and tied his bicycle to the sacred tree. Then one day, 3 other white men came by. They saw the bicycle and left. For weeks, nothing else happened. Then, on a big market day, the white men returned, surrounded the market, and killed almost everyone. Now the village is deserted. Okonkwo and Uchendu think the Abami villagers were foolish to kill a stranger without knowing who he was. This act brought their own destruction. Okonkwo says they were fools for not preparing for an attack. They have heard stories of white men taking slaves across the sea. Finally, Oberika gives Okonkwo the money from selling his yams. He promises to keep sending profits until Okonkwo returns to Umuofia. Okonkwo thanks Oberika for his fairness and generosity. 2 years later, Oberika visits Mbanta with bad news. Christian missionaries have come to Umuofia, built a church, and gained some converts. Oberika tells Okonkwo he saw Noi, Okonkwo's son, among the Christians. Noi said he embraced the new faith and no longer considered Okonkwo his father. Upset, Oberika visits Okonkwo, who refuses to talk about Noi. Oberika learns the truth from Noi's mother. 6 men, including a white man, arrived in Mbanta. People were curious because they had heard about the Abami destruction. The white man, with an Igbo interpreter, spoke about a new god who created everything. He said this god would replace their old gods. He also told them his people would come to live with them and bring many iron horses for the villagers to ride. Okonkwo couldn't understand the concept of Trinity and thought the man was mad. Most clansmen ignored the missionaries until they sang a joyful hymn that caught their attention. Hearing the song, Noi felt a sense of comfort. It eased his pain of Ikemefuna's death and the cries of the twin children in the forest. The missionaries asked for land to build their church, and Uchendu gave them a plot in Banta's evil forest. The next morning, they started clearing the forest. Everyone expected them to die within 4 days because it was the evil forest. When they didn't die and actually built their church without trouble, they gained their first 3 converts. The missionaries quickly gained more converts, including a pregnant woman who had to abandon 4 sets of twins in the forest. The white missionary moved to Umuofia. They left the interpreter, Mr. Kiaga, in charge of Mbanta. Noi becomes drawn to the new religion and wants to attend Sunday church. One morning, Okonkwo's cousin, Amikwo, sees Noi with the Christians and tells Okonkwo. Okonkwo attacks Noi, but Uchendu stops him. Noi leaves and never returns, deciding to join the Christians in Umuofia. At first, the church and the clan stayed separate. The clan thought the Christians would weaken and die in the dreaded forest, but they survived and even saved twins who were abandoned in the woods. Trouble started to arise when 3 converts from the Manta church claim that the Igbo gods are false. They plan to burn the shrines. Angry villagers beat them severely. Rumors spread that the white men are bringing their government and using their court system to judge clan members. A new issue arises with the Osu. They are the Banta's outcasts. They live separately, can't marry free people or cut their hair, and are buried in the evil forest after their death. Seeing the church accept twins, the Osu hope they might also be welcomed. After 2 outcasts attend church, the other converts started protesting. Mr. Kiaga argues that the Osu need the church most. He welcomes them, tells them to shave their dirty, tangled hair. One convert returns to the clan, but the rest find strength in the missionaries' message. More trouble arises when Okoli, an Osu convert, is rumored to have killed Python. Python is considered sacred among the tribes. The people of Mantu meet to discuss how to deal with the missionaries. Okonkwo suggests war, but the elders prefer peace. They decide to exclude church members from clan life, barring them from the spring and the market. But when all of a sudden Okoli dies, the villagers see it as divine revenge. They decide to leave the Christians alone. Okonkwo's 7 years of exile ends. He sends money to Obedka to build 2 huts in Umuofia. Before leaving Bantu, he hosts a grand feast to show his gratitude. An elder thanks Okonkwo, but also expresses concern about the new religion threatening the Igbo way of life. Okonkwo is determined to compensate for the 7 years he has lost and wasted. He plans to rebuild his compound on a more magnificent scale, with room for 2 new wives. Although Noi has joined the Christians, he is confident that his other 5 sons will not disappoint him. He plans to initiate his sons into the Ozo Society. The Ozo Society is the highest and most important Igbo society. Okonkwo also takes pride in his daughters, especially Ezenma, who has grown into a beautiful young woman. When Okonkwo returns to his village in Umuofia, he finds it greatly changed in his absence. The church has won a powerful foothold. Even several men of title have joined the new religion. The white men have established a court of law and built a prison. They say that Igbo laws are foolish, and they impose their own law on the Igbo. They employ natives to do the dirty work. Okonkwo wonders why the clan does not fight back. Obedika replies that it is already too late and that many of their own men and sons have joined the Christians. He mentions a case where the white men hanged Anito over a land dispute, but according to Umuofia's justice system, he would have been exiled. How could the white man understand Umuofia customs when they do not even speak the same language? Some Igbo clan members welcomed the changes. The Europeans brought a trading store. It boosted Umuofia's economy. The Christians in Umuofia are led by a kind white man named Mr. Brown. He becomes friends with local leaders, tries to understand local traditions. He prevents church members from provoking the clan. Mr. Brown encourages people to send their children to the Christian school. He says that future clan leaders will need to read and write. His approach and arguments start to have an effect, and his school shows positive results. Mr. Brown's health fails, and he leaves Umuofia after Okonkwo's return. He visits Okonkwo. He tells him that his son, Noe, whose name was now Isaac, is in a distant teaching college. Okonkwo drives him away with threats. Okonkwo's return is less grand than he hoped. He suffers personally and fears for the clan's future. Reverend James Smith replaces Mr. Brown. He is fanatical and strict. He sees things in black and white. He shows his intolerance by suspending a young woman whose husband followed a clan custom with their dead Ogbanji child. He condemns those who practice these beliefs. Reverend Smith encourages zealous converts like Enoch. Enoch enrages the clan during an annual ceremony by challenging the Egwugwu. He even tears off an Egwugwu's mask, a terrible sin according to the Igbo belief. I hope you remember who the Egwugwus were. They were the judges of law. The next morning, the Igbo destroy Enoch's compound. Enoch dies in the church. The Egwugwu approach the church but spare Mr. Smith out of respect for Mr. Brown. Mr. Smith can stay in Umuofia and worship his god, but they destroy the church anyhow. Okonkwo is happy about the church's destruction. Remembering Abami, the men stay armed. When the district commissioner returns, he summons 6 village leaders to his office, including Okonkwo. It's a trap. The 6 men are arrested, and the commissioner demands a fine of 200 bags of cowries. In prison, Okonkwo and others are humiliated and beaten by the Kotma, the court's African messengers. Ezinma, recently married, returns home when she hears about her father's imprisonment. The village agrees to pay the fine, collecting 250 bags of cowries. The Kotma increase the fine to keep the extra money. The men are released and they go home in silence. Okonkwo boils with hatred. A clan meeting is planned for the morning. Okonkwo hopes Umuofia will wage war on the intruders. If they don't, he will take action on his own. He is worried that Okonkwo, a pacifist and powerful orator, will sway the people to peace. During the meeting, 5 court messengers approach the group. Okonkwo jumps forward to stop them. The court messenger tells them that the white man has commanded this meeting to stop. Okonkwo takes out his machete and beheads the man, but no one tries to stop the other messengers from escaping. The other clansmen are afraid. Seeing such inaction and fear, Okonkwo walks away in disgust. The district commissioner arrives at Okonkwo's compound and asks for him. Oberika says Okonkwo isn't there. The commissioner threatens jail if they don't produce Okonkwo. Oberika takes them to a tree behind the compound. Okonkwo has hanged himself. No one in the clan can touch Okonkwo's body because suicide is a crime against the earth goddess. Outsiders must handle it. Oberika says Okonkwo was one of Umuofia's greatest men. The white man drove him to suicide, so he will be buried like an animal. The district commissioner is curious about Igbo customs. Okonkwo's death might make an interesting paragraph in his book about the British victory over Africa's savages. He has already chosen the title, The Pacification of the Primitive Tribes of the Lower Niger. This brings us to the end of Okonkwo's story and the story of how things fall apart. So what do you think about it all? About Okonkwo? About the way Achebe is painting the picture of Nigeria in front of us? Do write them in the comment section and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. This is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Bye-bye.